What's up, everybody? And in today's video, we're going to be talking through my experience on the GB Rowing Altitude Training Camp. We're going to go through the sessions that I did, the splits that I pulled, what happened as I progressed throughout the camp, how I adapted. I'm going to tell you the training program. I'm not going to give you it. They ask you not to share it, so I'm going to kind of honor that. But I'll give you an idea of the layout, and you should be able to make it up, figure it out by the end. What else? I'll talk about the purposes behind the altitude training, how hard it was, what I did to handle it, handle the training load. And yeah, just talk you through the experience. For those that are new here, my name's Jack Burns. I'm the founder and head coach of Edge Rowing, where we work with busy professionals, getting them rowing to the best versions of themselves. Post lots of content, try and give lots of value to help people for free that we aren't working with one-to-one. So if you want rowing advice, feel free to subscribe to the channel. But anyways, let's get going. Here's the little, just an idea of what we're going to be covering today. Lots of data, lots of splits. So if you like your numbers, then this is the video for you. First off, though, this was the group that we had. We went up the mountain, so we're actually like a development group technically. This was in January of 2020, so right before COVID, and right before I got selected into the GB team. Yeah, and most of the people in this picture as well ended up getting into the GB team. So we were in Sierra Nevada. This is one of the activities that we did. Walked up to the hill. Stunning place. For those of you that don't know, this is where Sierra Nevada is. So it's not the actual one in California. It's in south of Spain. It's kind of cool as well. Like on a clear day, you can actually see Africa. And yes, this is Spain. I know there are some Americans out there that don't know where Spain is, so there it is. Only joking. Anyways, so this is where the facility that we would train in. I thought it was a super cool place to train. The rooms are up here. I don't remember what that is. I think that's a cafe. These are the staircases, and you'd eat in here, sleep in here, and then walk down there. It maybe take like 5 minutes or so to get to the underground track. Here we have a really cool view of everything. But yeah, I personally, some people friggin' hated this camp because you're just inside and you erg all the time. I loved it. I thought it was a great place to train. Really fun. You get really good bonds and stuff like that. Good banter. Yeah. Anyways, the food, on the other hand, was fucking terrible. This is what actually, I was just looking on their website and pulled this screenshot. I thought it was kind of funny. We offer a totally adapted menu for the athlete's needs. Not for the athlete's wants necessarily, but for the athlete's needs. Yeah, this is, I just pulled this out. I saw, because I'm doing this video because they're up there right now, and I saw it on Instagram, so it kind of reminded me. This is one of the photos from one of the guys that are up there that I stole of what they have. Basically, each meal is either like pasta or rice, and then those are the two carbs, and then there's two sauces. So they have this. To be fair, they've added a bit of color to the sauce this year. It used to just be this white sauce. Now they put a bit of redness into it. I think that makes it look worse. They have like a creamy sauce, and then they have like a tomato-y sauce. And then you have lots of bread rolls as well. And then, some form of meat. They would as well, they'd have it mystery fish as well, which was friggin' horrible. Like, you'd flip it over. I don't eat meat anymore, but when the first time I went up, I ate meat, and you flip the fish over, and I had this it was like looking at you. I remember the first time I did it, I friggin' got a jump. But yeah, this is me, and I don't know if that's gonna go in the volume. Yeah, on the erg, this is the kind of track that we would train on. This is where the ergs would be lined up. Before we kind of get into the data, the splits, what the program was like, this is an idea of altitude training for those that don't that aren't familiar with it or have questions, generally from what I remember, you need to be above 1,800 meters above sea level so it's roughly like 6,000 feet. The idea is there's less oxygen, so your body adapts to it by producing more red blood cells. You go back down to sea level and you get the benefit of having more red blood cells, which is what a lot of drugs, illegal drugs, do for people like Lance Armstrong. So it takes 3 to 4 weeks of being at altitude to actually to have the benefit of it. So when we were going up, we were only going up for 10 days at a time. So the science would suggest that we're not actually getting benefit from it, or at least proper maximizing the benefit from it. The actual long-term benefit, so if you go up and then you come back down and in a year's time, there's no evidence to suggest you're still going to have the benefit from it. What it is good for is peaking. So if you have I know before the World Champs, GB will go up to a lake that's at altitude, and then they'd come back down from that lake around sort of 2 or 3 weeks before the World Champs. So it's really good for peaking. But yeah, the long-term benefit, there isn't any evidence. What they did want, the reason we were going up for 10 days at a time was to, one, get us all in a room where there were no other distractions and we could just focus on training. Two, get us used to going up to altitude. So that's one of the other things, is that there is evidence to suggest the more times that you've gone up to altitude, the better your body gets at adapting to it and the more beneficial it is. So if it's your 10th time going up to altitude, when you come back down to sea level, even if it is for a shorter time, you're going to get better benefit from it than, say, someone whose first time it was going up the hill. So this is the top secret training program. Again, I'm not gonna share it entirely, but essentially it was a 3-day cycle. So we spent the first day was kind of like a travel day, where it was like a half day when we got up, but once you're up there, it sort of works like a 3-day cycle where you do 1 UT2 erg, and then you do 2 weights, which sounds like a lot, and then you do 1 activity. So pretty much you're always doing 4 sessions per day. I think your first session starts around like 7:30 or 8 a.m., and then sometimes you're going all the way into like 7 p.m. They'll try and spread out the activities as much as possible. The weights would look like we would maybe do lower body weights first thing, and then a UT2 erg. The ergs were normally around 16 or 18K. Sometimes if it was before a hard erg, it would be like 10K or something. And then on the longer ones, I think we maybe did a 20K one. The weights, and then so the 2 weight session, we're doing 2 in one day. It would be like core and upper body, or lower body and upper body. We wouldn't do the same muscle twice. And then on the second day, we would do 2 UT2 ergs. So I think the biggest days we would do on this would be like 16K and then 18K, and then we'd have our weights, which again, I guess there were kind of like 3 types of weights that we would do. There'd be upper body, lower body, and core, or trunk, they would call it. So we weren't overworking ourselves too much. That was the idea. So the activity, that's an interesting one. It would basically be, they basically just wanted to get us moving more frequently at altitude. So they weren't going to give us another erg or another weight session. So the things were like walking up that hill. Like this walk was maybe like a 45-minute walk gradually up the hill. It wasn't anything intense. Sometimes we would do like silly ball games or like tag or stuff like that. And honestly, the ball games were harder than a lot of the ergs because everybody is competitive. Nobody is coordinated. Nobody's used to moving side to side. So like after the ball, like people would get injured like after the ball games because rowers were very good at going that way and then that way and nothing else. Day 3, we would do a short UT2 erg, so like 8K, 10K, and then the second session we would do a hard erg. So that would either be some sort of 10-minute ish intervals, or like 3K intervals, 3 of them, or a 30 rate 20. It was hard doing hard ergs at altitude. I'll talk through that in a second. I'll break down what that was like. But yeah, the weekly mileage was actually around kind of like 150K. So it was funny. We were there the same time as the swimmers, and because there's all these different, like, you'll get like junior programs and stuff like that going up from like Spain or something, or you'll get, I think the Edinburgh swimming team was there. So it's a huge facility, so good for training. But I just can't believe the food, how bad the food is. But anyways, everybody there goes up to altitude and does less training because it's so much harder. The rowers, for some reason, were the only people that would go up and do more training. Like in the development group, most of us were probably averaging around 120, 150K a week. So we were going up there and doing more than what we were used to on the Jurg, at least. But yeah, that reminded me actually one thing about the food. I'm going all over the place already. I thought if I had a friggin' slideshow that I'd be prepared, but I'm not. The food, so my first year there, I wasn't vegan, so I'd have all this shit. And then my second year, I had just recently gone vegan. And I actually, obviously, I would basically had to eat bread, some of the vegetables, the salad, and like some of the carbs. So I would have just friggin' died. So I ended up bringing up, they had a microwave there. I brought up like hundreds of these. I'm actually going to show you because I have some of them. So I brought up things like these microwave packs, which are like, a curry, like chickpeas. I bring up these things, tildas, which are great, by the way. I love these things. And then I brought up like pesto, so I'd bring up my own sauce. And then Pauline, my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, she made me like these flapjack things, which were helpful as well for fueling, because they say you're burning like 8,000 calories up there. I probably wasn't burning that many. I didn't feel like I needed that much, but anyways, I actually ate, my second time up there, I ate better than everybody else because I had brought my own food. The only downside was my suitcase was filled with so much food that I couldn't actually bring that much kit, so I had like 3 one-pieces that I just had to kind of wash constantly. Yeah. Cool. Okay, I think that's, yeah, this was the basically the training here. You get the idea. If you have any questions, put them in the comment, let me know. Put them in the comments. So the first few days, again, I had gone up. These dates are wrong on the erg, by the way. The first few time, when I went up, I had been told by people that had been up there before how hard the camp was, how so few people make it to the end of the camp, and complete every single session. So my first time up there, I hurt my back doing weights. So I had to spend like the last third of the camp on the bike. My objective going into this camp was to complete all the mileage. So I think there was a few of us actually that ended up doing all the mileage and doing all of it on the erg. The second thing they like you to do is ideally have your overall UT2 average, UT2, to be under 150. Most of the time at sea level, at this time, my UT2, again, at this time, I feel like even at sea level, I was going too hard. I was probably going around like 148 for my UT2. Whereas as I progressed, as I got better, I actually slowed down on my UT2s to the point I'd say it was maybe around a 150 to 152. But at this time, when I first went up there, generally they say your splits will be around, when you first get up there, your splits will be around 6 to 8 splits slower. So I started off at 154. Again, all the people said, don't go out like a hero on day one. So I was very, very cautious, and this was my second time up there, so I kind of knew, had an idea, but I'd start around 153s, 154s, and aim to bring this down. I don't think I got my average under 150, but I think I got close by the end. The first few ergs didn't feel any different. The UT2, like if you pushed harder, you would feel the shortness of breath. So you would just go slower. Like it just felt like UT2 at sea level for me, at least when you were doing it properly. It was the hard ergs that you felt it on, and like just going upstairs as well. And recovery got a little bit harder as well as the camp progressed. But the first few days, it was totally fine. And yeah, as you can see, 16K, 10K, starting to slowly drop the splits here. Again, these dates are wrong. I don't know why. And this was the first hard session that we did. So it was, I think, what was that? 2K UT2, 3K UT1, maybe harder than UT1. And then 3K at like probably UT1 again. So we repeat a similar session to this on the last day. The objective with this was just the guidance I got was don't go as hard as you can on the first hard session. So this again was fairly within my limits. This was a pretty normal, felt like UT1 as well. Throughout the rest of the camp, then I started to drop the splits. This order is wrong. These dates were right, so I think we got up there on like the 3rd or the 4th, and then we were leaving on the 13th. So this is kind of roughly about halfway through, starting to get the splits under 150. I was basically like, I wasn't adapting, I just worked harder. So I'm sure, well, obviously I was adapting, but not to the point it was at these splits. So I was just working harder, but getting a bit more confidence and pushing on a little bit. This is the first 30 rate 20 that we did. And oh my God, that was, I think, probably one of the hardest ergs I had ever done in my life. It was the only time, probably the strongest sensation I ever got of like burning in my lungs. So first off, I think I've got this mixed up. Anyways, I think I did like an 8K. I maybe did that 10K. Fuck knows. Yeah, I maybe did like an 8K or a 10K in the morning or something, and then it was a 30 rate 20. You really, in the hard stuff, I personally felt the restriction in your breathing, and I'd never felt my lungs burn like that before. So I think most of the people in the group got around a 143. I think a 143 is a pretty good standard to hit at altitude. If you can go under 140 at sea level, GB are really happy. If you can do it at altitude, it's very hard. I don't know if many people... I think maybe Tom George has done like a 137 or something. I don't know. Different people get affected by altitude differently. I know some people really struggle with recovery. Sleep can be even harder at altitude. The air is a lot drier as well, so your lips and your mouth get quite dry. That's what people sometimes bring up their own humidifiers to help them sleep. Yeah, you get the idea here. Camp's progressing. I'm getting more confident. I started doing them straight through as well. I really started to pick up a niggle and a back injury. And it was actually pretty annoying because the people, so towards this end of the camp, people started to fade off. People started to go and see physio. They were on the bike. The group just got smaller and smaller and smaller. And one thing I remember noticing, this is a big thing, I think, for you to take home watching this if you're a rower, is the people that were showing up, that were able to do the ergs towards the end of the camp, were the people that were showing up to the ergs with about 30 minutes early. And they were doing things like their mobility, their stretching, whatever it took for them to feel ready physically to be able to do the session. Because I could go, especially I remember this, I could go towards the end of the camp and be feeling fatigued and be feeling a niggle in my back. I wake up and I can feel it in my back and it's stiff and I'm starting to get to line and my shoulder's sore or whatever it is. I would go down to the erg. I'd go down even earlier and do my stretching, do my mobility, do all my activation so that I could be ready to complete the session. And the people, I remember at the start of the camp, like earlier on, there would be people like, the session started at 7:30. So you could choose to show up at 7:30. You could choose to show up at 6:45. The people that would show up at 7:25 were the ones who were starting to fill up the physio early on. Again, it was fucking annoying because towards the end of the camp, you would start to like need the physio, but the physio would be like fully booked with the guys that were showing up late to training. So it was a little bit annoying, but it was kind of a case of, well, what did you expect when you don't do any mobility? But yeah, that was a big lesson for me on mobility to see. It was so clear, that contrast towards the end of the camp. And that's a big thing with rowing in general, is how well can you do things without necessarily knowing what the feedback's going to be, and doing your mobility and your activation and everything at the start of the camp when you don't even feel like you need it. So, and again, this is a development camp. We were looking to get selected here. We were looking to Shep. He was Peter Shepard. He was the main selector, and he's there all the time on camp, and he's looking at who's able to complete the training. GB, they really want people to be able to complete the sessions and follow the program and follow the splits and stuff like that. So as much as I'm against that now, it's certainly, I don't think it's the best way to do it, but obviously it's a very successful program ultimately, and they've had a lot of success doing that. And when you're getting selected, you have to know what it is they're looking for, and you have to do that. So again, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I'd be making it up. I'd be going, this is a hunch, but I think most of the guys that were there towards the end of the camp were the ones that were getting selected. And by the way, I keep saying guys because the men's and women's groups were split up differently from what I remember. So we were on slightly different training programs, if you were wondering. But anyways, yeah, I remember this session here. I started to do them straight through, and this was, I think, the second last session, 20K session, and my back, I'd seen the physio loads of times. My back was starting to get sore. But I remember Shep saying to me, he was like, right, okay, Jack, I don't think you should do the session. I think you should go on the bike. That's what he's like. That's my impression of him. It's a pretty good impression. I'm not, if you ever knew him or you ever heard him speak, you'd be impressed. If you've heard Shep speak and you think that's accurate, in the comments, let me know what you think. But anyways, I got towards the end of the session here, 7K. I remember I would split up the 20K into as many intervals as possible, and I'd finish, roll into the floor and stretch on my back because I was just desperate to get the training done. And that's the thing with getting selected, is that it's kind of that you're walking a line between what is actually best for your rowing long term and what is actually best for you getting selected. And in that point, it would have been better for my rowing long term to not take the risk and to just get on the bike. But in this case, it was like I had a chance to show I could do all the training. I could do them at the splits that they wanted, and just put another kind of check to my name. Yeah, this was the last session, I believe. We did 6K warm up, and then we did a 2K at UT2, and then 3Ks hard. Yeah, that was it. And then I went back down to sea level. Personally, I didn't really notice a difference. Everybody's like, oh my God, you get down to sea level and you can eat the oxygen with a spoon. I didn't notice anything, and my splits were pretty much the exact same, probably because we weren't up there long enough, but I enjoyed it. It was a good time to get on the erg, and it was just good banter and good fun and stuff like that. And then this was the erg that I went on later to do a 5K at like a 137. So this was kind of like me getting to my peak, at least physically, were these splits. But anyways, if you found this video entertaining, or you want to see more insight into what training was like for somebody trying to get into the GB rowing team, or while I was in the GB rowing team, then let me know. If you have made it this far into the video, comment pesto. That's original. And I was running out of things on my desk to say. Did headphones, scissors, glass. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it, and like and subscribe if you liked the video. Bye.